What's up? Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. What's going on? My name is Adam Hoge alongside Nicholas Moreano. Day 2 of this extra Bears minicamp that the Bears get with their new head coach. It's in the books. Bears went inside today. Nick, what's up, man?
I dressed for the weather to be outside, Adam, and of course the Bears, practice inside, which I didn't mind. I like the Walter Payton Center, but I was ready for the elements if we had the opportunity to do that today.
So 0 for 2 on the dressing appropriately for practice.
Yeah, well, I have one last opportunity tomorrow. We'll see if I can get that one right.
Tomorrow looks like a halfway decent day. Cross your fingers. In this spring that we're having, if that's what you call it in Chicago. Anyway, welcome in. We do have some things to talk about from practice, some observations. Roquan Smith, David Montgomery talk today. Appreciate everybody jumping in. As always, we'll get to your comments and questions. We have our prospects to break down today for the NFL draft as well. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at CHGO_sports and CHGO_Bears. You can follow me at Adam Hoge. Nick is at Nicholas Moreano. Please rate and review the podcast. If you're listening via podcast, if that's how you consume us, please give us a nice rating and review. We appreciate you guys doing that. All right, let's jump in. So they did go inside today. I had a feeling they might, Nick, for the exact reason actually that Matt Eberflus brought up, which was, okay, the weather was like not great, but it was basically just drizzling a tiny bit. Definitely weather you could have practiced outside, but you get these first practices and it gives you an opportunity to go inside and kind of simulate how you might do a practice differently in the bubble in the Walter Payton Center, because you only have one field to work with. And those are things that you have to work through. And so I think that was smart today, regardless of what the weather was. And we were a little bit warmer watching too, and there was no wind. That was nice. But wasn't surprised to see them do that. And I think it's just, I don't know, tiny little stuff like that there's like logic involved where you're like, okay, all right, these guys seem to be on top of things a little bit.
Yeah, the attention to detail, I think that's been, for these 2 days that we've seen, like that's what I've noticed from what the players have kind of said. We spoke to Travis Gibson yesterday, heard from him, and then just even like something like that. And, I don't mind having that high vantage point in the Walter Payton Center. You could get a good scope of the entire field. But yeah, that attention to detail, it's like things like that can maybe go a long way in trying to get things right with this new team.
Yeah. So just a little note there to start. People are asking if Eddie Jackson was there today. He was. So a good update there as we're kind of put in a tough position yesterday of having to analyze what that meant with him not being in a practice that was not mandatory. And that's unfortunately just part of what this time of year is like. Sometimes part of me even today was like, couldn't you have just at least shown up yesterday and skipped today? So at least it wasn't a story for 24 hours, but yeah, it's fine. He's there, and I think that's something worth mentioning off the top, because it at least takes away some type of controversy or concern that Eddie Jackson isn't, fully invested in what's going on with the new coaching staff.
Yeah, and Eberflus liked what he saw from Eddie Jackson, just in, the drills that he was, watching there. Looked quick, looked athletic, according to Eberflus, finished well, and caught the ball well in the drills that he was doing. So it was good to see number 4 back there. Every time, Adam, I see 39, I'm like, no, that's not Eddie Jackson. That's somebody else who I don't have the roster sheet in front of me. Yeah. I would tell you. But so it was good to have him back, and Eberflus really appreciated him being here.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Roquan Smith, David Montgomery met with the media today before practice. And, it's interesting hearing from these two guys with all the changes going on at Halas Hall, because they are two guys who are both in the last year of their current contracts. Roquan Smith got the 5th-year option, and he's going to play on unless there's an extension that comes. David Montgomery, last year of his rookie deal. And, it's not hard to make an argument that we're talking about the best defensive player and best offensive player on the roster right now. I think ideally you're hoping Justin Fields becomes that this year, or Darnell Mooney continues to get even better. But, David Montgomery's importance to the offense at this point, he kind of fits that bill. So it's kind of just interesting to hear from these guys and how they're adapting to the change. Let's actually start with David Montgomery, because I thought what he had to say was pretty interesting. David Montgomery was asked about all the changes at Halas Hall. We have a full screen of the quote for those of you watching on YouTube. It's definitely new. Just seeing a couple of my guys not being here, it kind of puts you on edge a little bit. Like, oh, is it a question that I'll be here? Just being realistic about things. Kind of a honest moment from David Montgomery, at Halas Hall today. I would certainly have that, especially being a running back too in his current situation. Probably in line to get paid pretty decently if he continues to have, if he stays healthy and has a good year. That's going to put the Bears in a tough position.
Well, I think too, David Montgomery being candid about this, like this is a new coaching staff, right? He kind of has to prove himself to Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, and he kept talking about like change is good and that's what essentially is happening on this Bears team. And when he said that, it reminded me of what Travis Gibson was also talking about, like how the Bears envision him. It's like, well, you have to compete with everybody now. It's like, again, not everything is guaranteed. And so that I guess it's collectively within the entire team where it's like, we got to compete here. This is a new coaching staff. We kind of need to prove ourselves. And, David Montgomery is pretty candid about that in when he answered that question. So it is a new coaching staff. It's something to where he didn't really talk about how the new offensive scheme would really help him out. But again, he does feel like he needs to prove himself, which we'll see what happens in year one of Luke Getsy's offense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I just think that, with that situation with David Montgomery, something to watch. And I do like his attitude, because the rest of that quote was actually, about like how you really can't think that way. He kind of had an honest moment with us, and then it was like, well, but it's when you come to work every day, you got to kind of try as hard as you can and not be thinking that way and just come and I think he went on to say, like, whether it's the first year, the last year, honestly, he and Roquan sort of had that same type of mindset today talking about it. Roquan's situation is actually very interesting because he doesn't have an agent. And you kind of wonder how that's going to play out in his spot. So, I do think, though, that he's if he wants to be in more of a completely stable spot and, set up to have long-term success in this defense, where it's really just the positioning plays, David Montgomery might be a little bit more replaceable just because he's running back.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And Matt Eberflus, again, he's spoken to how important the middle linebacker position, the inside linebacker, is for this defense. And when it was brought to him today, he mentioned, like, he brought up guys like, remember Urlacher and Brick, like those guys, those inside linebackers, how important it was for this scheme. That's what Roquan Smith is going to play. And he didn't want to talk much about the contract, obviously, saying that those are kind of personal matters, but he does feel confident that, things will get done. But like, it lines up with what his goals are. And he wants to be he wants to be the best linebacker in the league. So if he plays at that level and, the contract still isn't situated, I think the Bears are going to be in a tough place where, you have to give this guy an extension because of how valuable, how good, and how productive he can be.
And the Bears should have that space, whether they wait till the offseason of next year or do it now. I mean, they can make that happen. And, I think we'd all be very surprised if Roquan Smith is not part of his team for a long time. But, hey, today's NFL, like, out of nowhere today, Deebo Samuel is like, I want to trade. All right. I mean, that's kind of the wide receivers more than any other position. But I guess you never really know these days.
Yeah, and like a guy like that, Deebo Samuel, does literally everything for that 49ers offense. Seeing that he wants to get traded, it's like, of course, Bears fans on Twitter, like, what would it take to get a Deebo Samuel? And you speculate.
Let's start with a first-round draft pick.
Oh, you don't have, which the Bears don't have. So conversation over. No Deebo Samuel.
I hate to say it, but pretty much is. That's the situation the Bears are in right now. Interesting little nugget that Matt Eberflus brought up about Roquan is that when Roquan was coming out of Georgia in 2018, remember the Bears and the Colts were kind of in similar situations in that Quentin Nelson and Roquan Smith both made a lot of sense for both teams. And the Colts were picking ahead of the Bears. But in the pre-draft process, not surprisingly, Roquan Smith took a visit to Indianapolis. And Matt Eberflus said he spent the whole day with him and was impressed and, loves Roquan Smith. Of course, the Colts did a really nice job in that draft. Chris Ballard, the general manager, opting for Quentin Nelson, probably the best guard in football. And then in the second round, they got Darius Leonard, and who's certainly, at the level of Roquan Smith, if not better, if you go off all the honors and things like that. But in this same defense is why everyone's excited about Roquan Smith potentially filling that Darius Leonard role. But that's a heck of a draft. When they could have drafted Roquan Smith in the first round, they went with Darius Leonard instead. Now Matt Eberflus is with Roquan in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think that's to go from Darius Leonard to Roquan Smith, that's a pretty, good lineage of linebackers to play with and to coach with. We have a comment here from Rob saying, I miss his Roquan lining up at, the middle linebacker or Morrow at will. So still, Roquan Smith said he could play anywhere. And that's kind of how they're gonna approach it as of right now. And Matt Eberflus even said similar things where those guys are gonna be interchangeable, and we might even have different people in there, especially in these practices. So that's still a fluid situation. But just kind of going back to the Darius Leonard there, Adam, because you mentioned him, Roquan Smith was asked, well, have you ever contacted Darius Leonard to kind of get a feel of like what this defense was like? And he said he hasn't, just because he played in that 4-3 defense his entire career, as opposed to Roquan playing in a different defense. But he has watched a lot of tape on Darius Leonard. So seeing how he can create those turnovers, just seeing his playing style. So that's kind of where, I think as long as this conversation goes, Darius Leonard and Roquan Smith are going to be linked because of how important that position is.
Yeah, I think so. And because Darius plays that will linebacker spot, getting back to Rob's question is part of why there's been so much speculation. I know we've talked about it a lot where he's better suited. I got to be honest, the way that they were kind of running 7-on-7 and then sort of ushered us out of there, right, as they were getting into team stuff right at the end of practice, I really didn't get a good sense of where everyone was lining up. They do seem a little bit interchangeable. And technically, even if we did see that, because it wasn't addressed by the head coach or Roquan today, we technically aren't even allowed to tell you based on the rules that we have to follow when we do get to watch practices that are not open to the fans like they are at training camp. I will say this, though. It is very clear that Roquan Smith is, because Eberflus talked today about how he's running the walkthroughs. Like, he's the quarterback of the defense, regardless of where he's lining up and what his responsibilities are. He's the one making the checks, relaying the calls to everybody in the field, just like he did last year. And I think that they're going to sort out as they get to these practices, the best spot for them. Also, I thought was interesting was Eberflus went into how might be a rotation of linebackers. He's like, we might not always have Nicholas Morrow and Roquan Smith be the two linebackers out there. Now, in that scenario, which one of them is coming off the field? Because I doubt Roquan Smith's coming off the field unless he's hurt. He's going to be in the box score pretty much every week with 100% of the snaps. Then it would be Morrow coming off. So, if you look at what they did in Indianapolis, the middle linebacker spot is a little bit more interchangeable. They had Anthony Walker out there for a little bit. They let him go to Cleveland. It was, not to put the players down, but like, it just wasn't as important, right, as the will, just the way that they ran it. And I think that is something to take into account as we try to figure that out. But, hopefully we'll get a little bit of a closer look tomorrow, though. My guess is tomorrow's practice is going to be a little bit shorter. We're still trying to figure that out, though.
Yeah, still trying to figure it out. He also talked about Roquan Smith, just Nicholas Morrow, his counterpart there, right? Says really likes him because he's a country boy from, I think, was it Alabama, down to earth, has great morals, really smart, and the communication factor has been really good with him off the field and on the field. So whether, it's Smith on the field, Morrow, which I think we kind of just established who would probably be on the field more. It's good to see those two having that partnership, and that's how Eberflus kind of talked about it today in his presser. That's a partnership to have with those two inside linebackers, and they're establishing now in this voluntary minicamp.
All right, need to tell you the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app. Use code CHGO when you sign up. And if you do that right now, you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, including Nicholas's practice observations from Halas Hall, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. So that's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making a $50 more first-time deposit at PointsBet. Any questions with that, email PointsBet at allchgo.com. We will help you out. Your home for live in-play betting just got even better. Introducing PointsBet's new feature, the live NBA same game parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live NBA same game parlay, and you can even boost those live same game parlays. Watch live, parlay live, and boost live with PointsBet. And now online signup is available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. What are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
All right, quick question for all of our listeners, our viewers. Do you want to start your day with a competitive edge? Strava CBD coffee is a game changer and has helped thousands of people to improve their overall wellness and quality of life. Strava delivers delicious, fresh roasted specialty coffee infused with organic broad spectrum CBD. And just so you know, CBD from hemp doesn't make you high or hungry, but it does offer real benefits that can help you, like feeling alert and focused without the jitters, living your day more balanced with less anxiety and fewer aches and pains. Plus, including CBD in your daily routine can help you enjoy more restful sleep so you can wake up feeling at your best. And the best part about all of this, Strava is all about quality. Everything is small batch, fresh, and shipped straight to your door. Strava also offers concentrated full spectrum CBD tinctures for those looking for a more traditional CBD format with a powerful entourage effect of benefits. CHGO listeners can save 25% off their entire purchase when you use code CHGO25. That's 25% off your entire order at StravaCraftCoffee.com when you use code CHGO25 at checkout. Discount coupon valid on non-subscription purchases, only one use per customer. Already love Strava too? Subscribe and save with the Strava Coffee Club. With Strava, you're in control. Save on your favorite coffees and have them automatically delivered to your home or office on your preferred schedule.
All right, going to keep things rolling here on the show today. And I do see one question from Dan. What's up with the Sox?
Man, what was the final score of that one, Adam? Do you even know? I saw it was like 10 to...
I think it was 11 billion to 1 was the final
sounds about
score.
right.
So, just throw that one out. If this was football, we'd say throw the tape out. Don't even watch it. And I got plenty of thoughts on that. You know, the thing about baseball, you get a bad game Sunday and then 2 rainouts and a bad game to start today to start a doubleheader. All of a sudden, you're like on a 4-day run of crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I guess
exactly.
It's sort of like the equivalent of a 6-game Bears losing streak, except that lasts for 6 weeks. And all of a sudden, like half the season's gone by. Basically, you like gone 2 months without a win. Baseball is like that. It just feels, it happens in a few days. It just feels like it lasts forever.
Yeah, and obviously with so many games, you have an opportunity, like in a few days, to kind of correct yourself, right? So that's what's good, and not too worried. Again, the Sox are a team that you and I, Adam, are expecting to be, I think, in contention. But I know you have your worries about some of the things that the Sox have going on there, but they still have a pretty good team.
Well, that's why we have the CHGO White Sox podcast for you. So I'm sure they'll have all the thoughts after the this doubleheader gets over, and I'll be tuning in for that. Make sure you're checking out all of our team shows. Interesting question. Before we get to some of our practice observation, I see it there from Mossy. Is Deebo a true number one receiver or a product of Shanahan? Like, Deebo's his own player, man. He's just here's the one thing that kind of surprises me about the news today about Deebo wanting out of San Francisco. I am skeptical that any other team's going to use him properly in the same way. Like, he's talented enough, he should have success, but like the chemistry that Kyle Shanahan like put together to figure out how to properly use him in that offense. Like, I'm sure defenses everywhere, if you're the 49ers on your schedule in 2022, are trying to crack that code. Because it kind of did seem like he was a cheat code, this past season. And I'm just like, even if he were to go to a similar type offense in a fantasy world, the Bears able to get him right, and they're trying to run these Shanahan concepts. I don't know. Would you have the same faith that he would be as productive? You know what I mean?
No, so there's one thing, obviously Deebo Samuel does so many things and is such a great player. And let's say you run him on a jet sweep, Shanahan knows when to call those plays, and that's why they work. You could run a jet sweep with the Bears, and it just could be timed, just not the right time. The defense knows what's coming. So to answer your question, no, I wouldn't feel confident. That's why Shanahan and that offense and Deebo, that's why they work. Take him away from that, I think we're not going to see the best version of Deebo Samuel, which is unfortunate, but kind of looks like it's headed in that direction.
Yeah, it's man, this has been a crazy offseason. There's just another one. I don't know if we have another crazy wide receiver trade before the draft next week. I was sort of on the edge of my seat today, though, Nick, because the way the Tyreek Hill deal came together, it was you got the initial tweet from one of the insiders being like, Tyreek Hill, he kind of wants out, and then 45 minutes later he's traded to Miami. It was that fast. So today when that came out, I think it was Jeff Darlington said, I just talked to Deebo, he wants a trade. I'm like, oh, I mean, is this happening? Is this going to happen quick? Although the fact that it came straight from Deebo almost sounds like, he's kind of desperate for a trade, maybe. The 49ers.
That could be it.
Why would the 49ers trade him?
Yeah, it just, especially they have Trey Lance, a young quarterback. Wouldn't you just want to surround him with as many good weapons as possible? Yes, you have George Kittle and things like that, but yeah, that will definitely help.
That sounds like Justin Fields and the Bears.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Would you want to surround him with all that talent?
It would make sense.
All right, well, let's talk about the talent that was on the field today inside the Walter Payton Center. And I'll tell you one key practice observation that I saw. It was a quick moment. It was actually I'm almost hesitant to even say who dropped the pass because everyone's going to freak out about it, and they shouldn't. But Darnell Mooney dropped a pass, okay? And it's definitely not a big deal. That's not the point of the story, and he'll be just fine, everybody. But the pass was dropped. The second that ball hit the ground, the defense picked it up. And it wasn't just the person who picked it up. Well, I honestly don't even remember who picked it up because I was just so caught off guard. The whole defense immediately went into return mode. Immediately. And it wasn't even a live ball. It was just a drop pass. But that's what they're practicing. That is what they're drilling home, which is every loose ball, pick it up, return it. And we honestly have not, a lot of coaches talk about that, and you see it periodically, and you at least see the ball picked up sometimes, but rarely do you see a defense every time a ball's on the ground practice they're returning it for a touchdown. That is a Lovie Smith thing. We have not seen that since Lovie Smith.
Adam, when that play happened, I remember seeing the play it was a drop pass, and then I almost questioned myself, was it intercepted? Because everybody was rallying and running, towards the offense. I'm like, wait, was that picked off? And I had to ask a couple of people around me, no, it hit the ground. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's just, again, Eberflus preaching, everyone to the ball, and it's happening on day 2 of voluntary minicamp. So I think even though it's still so early on, that message is getting through to these defensive players at least. And that was good to see. We got to see, I think I charted down 8 8 of the 12 7-on-7 plays before we had to go back to we just had to leave practice. But I thought Justin Fields looked good for the most part in those 7-on-7s. Only that one pass and the very last pass before we left did fall incomplete. So 6 of 8, and Cole Kmet did have a nice catch. I think I could say that without getting in trouble, but that's what we got to see in the 7-on-7. The Bears, they go into 11-on-11 after that.
Yeah. Which I don't think we got to see. Am I right on that?
No, yeah, we heard that they were going to do that.
I was honestly like, was I not watch? I swear the offensive line was not on the field. So but I don't know.
We didn't get to see it.
I'm losing my mind.
Practice was cut short for us.
Yeah. So hey, that's fine. Someone asked earlier if Jalen Johnson was there today. I did not see Jalen Johnson again. So
he was not there.
Yeah, don't know what's going on, but that's the second day in a row. Again, it's like yesterday with Eddie Jackson. You don't want to overreact to it because he could show up the next day. But
I have a feeling he doesn't, to be complete. Like, it's going to be the last day, Thursday, tomorrow. I have a feeling Jalen Johnson, and again, we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I have a feeling he doesn't. Robert Quinn was also not here today. That would make 2 straight practices for him as well. So, and him, I'm not as worried about, and even Jalen Johnson to a certain extent, but I think I would have liked to see Jalen Johnson out there because they're starting corners right now. Now we're in the practices like that. I think Thomas Graham was one of them. So it's like we get to see what that looks like without a Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, Thomas Graham's been there. Nothing stood out necessarily on him yet. But he's been there, and all you can do is take advantage of the opportunities you get when some of the starters are not there. So, every time somebody like that doesn't show up, it's an opportunity for somebody else. And so people have asked about Equimania St. Brown and Byron Pringle. Talked about Pringle a little bit yesterday. Bigger than I thought. It's one kind of my big observation about him so far. Not that he's made any huge plays or anything. Also, guys, I understand all the questions, but they're really not doing them. It took all the way to the end of today to even see the offense go against the defense in 7-on-7, and then we didn't get to see 11-on-11. So, understand the excitement and all the questions. I want to see all this play out too, but there's just not a lot to go off of right now. It's hard you don't want to overreact to anything. That's why I'm kind of bringing up what happened with. Just seeing that pass dropped for the first time early on in a 7-on-7 situation and the defense react the way they did. That tells you that what the coaches are telling them about the hits principle translated in the first opportunity for it to really work in a practice. They didn't miss that opportunity because that could have been they didn't pick the ball up and then, they probably get reamed by the coaches for it. Instead, it worked. It translated. There's been a couple other small things too, just in some of the drills that have been detailed. I can't describe the detail, but some of the things we've seen where I don't know. You see them running the outside zone, which is nothing new. We all know they're running that, and you see the bootlegs that the coaches have talked about and things like that. So it's just, I'll say this: the practices have been crisp, and the players do seem like they are going 100%, which is what the coaches are asking them to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of going back to 7-on-7, I wanted to see how long they were actually going for what we got to watch. We were able to watch 7 minutes of 7-on-7. We started at 2:32. We were out of there by 2:39. So it was 7. It was quick, you guys. Everyone's asking about who did what. Again, it was at the end of practice. We got to see 8 of the 11 plays. Equimania St. Brown did make a catch over the middle of the field. Good ball by Justin. But yeah, there was without going into detail about one of the drills, I know some of the players got dizzy. I don't know if you saw this, Adam, but
I did not.
So it almost looked like a ring around the rosy kind of thing. And then go find the punt returner.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. I did, because I'm watching special teams. Yeah. Yeah, I did see that. I didn't, quite frankly, I didn't really know what was going on or why they were doing that, but
Yeah, they all converged on the punt returner. So it's like, oh man, I'm dizzy. But yeah, it's like, hey, you're disoriented, not knowing maybe if a ball is or punted in a weird direction, where you have to go, finding, your lane. But they're putting these players, and I noticed it like when they were kind of throwing some of the pass to the DBs, it's like they talked about that. They don't want the pass to be accurate. Like that's not going to happen in a game. So they kind of replicate the unpredictable, I would say, in these practices. So I get you're seeing that early on in the Eberflus era.
Well, one of the things about punt coverage that I can't tell you is just that like you can have a plan for, who's supposed to be where, but depending on who actually gets out first, who gets out second, who gets out third on each side, your responsibilities change. So having not seen that specific drill before, I'm guessing that that's kind of what they were going for. It's just kind of, you don't necessarily know who's going to be the first downfield. Responsibilities change from there. And so I'm guessing that's kind of what they were going after there. Interesting to see things like that, though. And, there's kind of a conversation going on right now about the attendance, in the chat right now. And look, I get it. Like, you don't want to make too big of a deal out of it. You don't want to, some people are saying it's voluntary and that's okay for them not to be there. Fine. Sure. Like, I get that. And like, I remember having this conversation last summer, Nick, and because I am somebody that 9 times out of 10 sides with the Players Association. Mm-hmm. But I thought what they were trying to push last year was over the top, which was this push that came from the Players Association where they were trying to convince like groups of players, or even like full rosters, if in a perfect world, to not show up for the stuff that wasn't mandatory, to kind of just, because there is definitely something that's happened, and it's been going on now for a long time, but where voluntary off-season workouts have basically become mandatory, because even though they can't fine you, it can still affect your playing time. But really what that's a product of is just which players are outworking other players. Mm-hmm. So if your solution is just to have nobody show up, how does that help the players who don't make millions of dollars, who are fighting to have a job? And then they get caught up in that pressure from the veterans who, have these amazing, gorgeous houses and are rolling into the practice facility and the Range Rovers and things like that. Like, that doesn't seem fair for the guys that are fighting for their jobs, right? And so I did not like that whole push last year. I sort of understand where it's coming from, but your job is to be a football player, and there's a lot of important work that happens in the offseason, especially when you have a new coaching staff like the Bears do now. They are literally installing this offense, installing this defense, installing special teams, and this is their first opportunity to get on the field and go through as close to full speed as they can what's been talked about in meetings. So maybe I'm just coming off like a coach here, but it's important to be there. There's reasons that are probably still valid to miss a day here and there, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not willing to just say, yeah, they're not there, no big deal, especially because I think it hurt them last year. I think when you saw the way the defense started against the Rams in week 1 and had all those blown coverages, I think it hurt them.
Yeah, and you know what? When Roquan Smith was asked about this, the importance of being there, he's like, I stand up for what I believe in. If Roquan Smith can make it to these voluntary minicamp practices, then literally I think every single player should be able to. And again, yes, players will miss for whatever personal reasons, but he's kind of showing up. That's his stance on it. Of course, he wasn't going to miss this. So if a guy like that can make it, again, that I think raises the standard of what he kind of expects of his teammates too. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. I know I've seen some comments here about, again, players who were and weren't there. The only offensive player that wasn't there was Nick Foles, if that answers your questions on specific players. So process of elimination, that should work there. But Adam, before we kind of continue this conversation, I have to tell our listeners and viewers about PointsBet. If you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us to continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet, live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
And make sure you're checking out all of our shows every single day. Podcasts, live shows, however you want to consume them. You can watch them on YouTube. You can get them as a podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It's not just the Bears, but the White Sox, Cubs, Bulls. Hey, there's a Bulls playoff game tonight.
That's right.
Yo, real talk, I'm going to need a nap before an 8:30 tip. You know,
That's late.
Yes, that's late. That's a late start for a game taking place in the Central Time Zone. Like, you know, if it was out west or something, I would get it. But you know, that's okay. We'll get a nap in. We'll watch to the end, and then we'll stay up even longer to watch the CHGO Bulls podcast, or post game show tonight. Absolutely. We have premium written content for you too, also on allchgo.com. Make sure you're there and signed up. Get a free t-shirt. When you become a member, you get access to all of our written content. You get access to the members-only Discord in the CHGO Lounge. A lot for you to consume. We appreciate all the support, and especially everybody who's here every day in the comments, interacting with the show. We try to keep that going as much as possible outside the show as well. On Twitter, social media, the Discord is a great place to have those types of conversations, and thanks to everybody who has done that. It is time in our final segment here to go through our prospects, our pick a prospect. And I'll let you start today, Nick. How about that?
Yeah, and I have a really interesting prospect to share with everybody, all of our listeners. Troy Anderson from Montana State, 6'3", 243 pounds. This guy, like on the bullet point list that you can see here, just ultra athletic. Freshman year, he was a running back and linebacker in this Big Sky Freshman Player of the Year. Sophomore year, moved over to quarterback, led the team in passing and rushing. His junior year, he moves to linebacker, gets 6.5 sacks that season. Didn't play 2020 due to COVID. And then senior year, 147 total tackles at the linebacker position, the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year. Physical downhill player, fills gaps, and does so with physicality. When given the opportunity, the dude puts on some big hits. And, you know, it helps when he is the size that he is and can run a 4.42 40-yard dash, and was a former state champion in the 102-meter in high school. But that speed allows him to go sideline to sideline, can just track down ball carriers. And he's doing this given that he's playing on the offense and just learning, really just recently learning how to play the linebacker position. And that's kind of where I still need to see a little bit more from him, because he did play linebacker that freshman year and junior and senior season, but he still has so much to learn. Like, there are guys that have been playing linebacker their entire lives and they're still learning. So he still has to learn, again, just how to get to a ball carrier and just see his natural instincts take over. But I think if he gets more reps, you're going to see a guy like Troy Anderson just blossom. And he did have some injuries that 2020 season that was canceled due to COVID. He would have missed a good portion of that with a knee injury. So do have to consider that, but projected to be a second and third rounder. And look, he could play on offense, defense, and special teams. And he even had some experience like catching the ball. So Troy Anderson can do it all. And for a Bears, team that needs a little bit of everything, it makes sense.
How about the linebackers coming from the not quite all the way west? What do we call that area? The Wyoming's and Montana's, other than like Sky Country, right?
Country. I think Sky Country.
Sky Country. Yeah, because Chad Muma from Wyoming we've talked about. Now your guy here, Troy Anderson from Montana State. Some good talent out that area, as there always is. But yeah, I agree with you. Troy is an interesting prospect. I'm going to go with, I guess I'll stick back closer to home in the Big Ten with a tight end. Here's why this is interesting. I don't know how many people, I feel like people watch a lot of Ohio State, and there's obviously a connection here between Jeremy Ruckert and Justin Fields too, with any offensive player you're going to take from Ohio State. But my guy today is Jeremy Ruckert. Okay, he's a big tight end with really, like, if you watch this guy or have seen him in games in recent years, like, there's a great Jeremy Ruckert catch like every game. It seems like he has great hands. Hand-eye coordination is in there. Dane Brugler had in his outstanding draft guide, The Beast, a nugget in there that I didn't know, that Jeremy Ruckert used to be a soccer goalie. And that is part of the reason why, like, his hand-eye coordination is great, and probably why he makes some of these crazy catches. So here's a good and a bad on the stats, because I call him a money man because he produces touchdowns like crazy. 12 touchdowns on 54 receptions. That's like every 4.5 catches he's getting a touchdown. But this is what shocked me, because I feel like I've seen a lot of Jeremy Ruckert in recent years. He only has 54 catches. Part of that is this usage of tight end at Ohio State. They kind of use him more as a blocker than a pass catcher. That's why he has the low targets. But everybody raves about his work ethic. He did have a foot injury, a Liz Frank injury at the Senior Bowl. Really hasn't done anything since Combine. I think probably going to hurt him a little bit. And the low production will hurt him a little bit. So I don't necessarily think people are going to be too excited about a tight end prospect. But I don't know if I'd take him in the 3rd round, Nick. I think if they're in a situation where they're able to add a 4th rounder with one of those, with a trade back, which I think could be on the table, they end up with a 4th round pick, could make sense to add to that tight end situation with another young guy. I will also say, though, anybody who's going to respond to me like not necessary with the other needs, willing to listen to that, because they have added some decent veterans like James O'Shaughnessy the other day. And so I don't know if it's the top option, but I do like Jeremy Ruckert a lot. Someone also has mentioned guy I know well, Jake Ferguson, the tight end out of Wisconsin. He's probably a guy you can get even later in the 5th or 6th round, I think, and he's a good player too. So just a couple tight end options.
Yeah, I think, fans might be a little excited with that just because of Justin Fields' connection. But like you said, the Bears have added some tight ends. They have 4 in the roster with Ryan Griffin, Jesper Horsted, Cole Kmet, and James O'Shaughnessy. We were watching practice, Larry Mayer and I. He's like, man, Jimmy Graham looks a little different this year. And I just started cracking up. Like, yeah, James O'Shaughnessy is a way more compact, being number 80 than a Jimmy Graham, but that made me laugh. But I think if he were to get drafted by the Bears, like, oh, the Justin Fields connection, I think people can get behind that. If it was maybe, they somehow get him later in the 5th round or something like that. But the Bears need pass catchers, and a guy knows how to score a touchdown, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and like the way that Jimmy Graham was eventually used was just like, okay, just basically in the red zone. I do like when a guy like that, Jeremy Ruckert, just not a ton of catches, but money catches. He's catching touchdowns, and they're impressive. I think in an offense where he gets more targets, he's going to make some plays. I'm also, as we've talked about with Jesper Horsted many times, intrigued to see him play more. But there's some risk that comes with that, as there is drafting a mid-round tight end, hoping he works out. So I got you. A few more minutes here, some time to kind of clean up our comments section and questions before we get out of here today with our day 2 of minicamp. Rob's firearm safety chimes in. Adam and Nick, no bad takes this season. Our fans are too irrational to process and decipher what you truly mean. I kind of feel like I'm too irrational to process and decipher what you mean by that comment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking this one through, and I don't know what to quite
I don't know if this is a shot at us or a compliment.
Hey guys, I'm jumping in. Sorry,
okay,
this was from earlier. It was during the talk about minicamp where you kind of have to mention things but without actually saying them because of the rules that they do in Halas. But I think he just wanted you to say, say what you mean when you can, And don't make people go crazy when you say like guys aren't there or whatever. Here, let's get another one for you. How about this from
I apologize. That's unfortunately the tough position we get put in with the rules we have to follow. So I will say, we will always say what we mean when it comes to our opinions. Always.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is from Benny G here. Any chance we still get a shot at Ogunjobi on a cheaper deal, or do you think he crossed the Bears off his destination list now?
You know, I don't know that he's necessarily crossed the Bears off the list. I think he's hoping for more money. Then he's probably getting. If another team jumped out there and said, "Oh, Ogunjobi's available, let's offer him a similar contract as the Bears did, and we're okay with his physical," he'd sign there, right? So we've talked about this a couple of times. I just think this is a matter of time passing. He's probably trying to get healthy, show teams that, okay, whatever the issue was, whatever that extra issue the Bears found, it's fixed. It's resolved. I can still play. And then maybe he can get, a big contract again. The problem is it's very, very unlikely. Like, even if that did play out that way where he is all of a sudden healthier, the chances of him getting the same type of offer in May or June or July or even August as he did on the first day of free agency opening, probably unlikely. But could he get more than maybe he's getting offered now, if he's even getting offered anything? I just think a lot of teams probably said, hey, you got to get healthy first. So is there a chance? Yeah, I'd say there's a chance. Ryan Poles made it clear that he's open to that. It's up to Ogunjobi, I think, to get healthy, and then he can decide if the Bears are still an option. And I'll tell you this, if the Bears end up offering him the most money, he'll probably be a Bear.
Yeah. Hopefully they kept that door open because they really wanted Ogunjobi. They really wanted him to be that 3 tech, and it's just going to all be really the medicals that determine whether or not he can be a Bear in the future. Like you said, Adam, probably not for as much, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
I think we have one more question. Can draft prospects say no to a team if they draft them and go to the team they want? Just curious. Not really. I mean, there's
kind of almost do that though.
Yeah,
like that was.
There's some crazy outliers where Eli Manning had enough power in his situation to basically say, yeah, I'm not going to San Diego, and they worked out a deal to New York instead. One thing that was different though back then was that the contracts weren't slotted for draft picks. So you would see, like, I think Sam Bradford was the last quarterback draft pick who got like insane money before he ever played it down. And he's a good example of somebody why it's better off that these contracts are slotted for draft picks. But yeah, realistically, the only way you can do that is if you had somehow have enough power to demand a trade like Eli Manning did, or if you just kind of want to tank yourself and get back on the open market and be a bust. And then that probably is not a smart move financially because all these teams want to see good players and good tape. So this is why I do say though, like, if you're getting drafted late in the 6th round or in the 7th round, sometimes I know guys want to hear their name called, and that's a great thing to have happen. And so enjoy it for those that are fortunate to have that happen. For those that don't, I think it's a good thing to be a free agent sometimes. Like, then you get to pick where you want to go, where the fit is. You got teams bidding for you. Sometimes you get some decent bonus money out of that for like the top undrafted free agents. So that's kind of where you get your power to pick your destination.
Yeah, and then the only other player that I remember doing that, and it was in the comments, John Elway. Like, that was obviously a famous one that kind of happened there. But quarterbacks have that power. If you're not one of those quarterbacks, it looks like you're going to where you get drafted.
Well, and they have, again, it's all about leverage, whatever it is. So if you have an option to go play baseball somewhere, or
true.
I mean, should we go to our USFL expert Lawrence on Jim Kelly's career, right? There you go.
Hi. Yeah,
Jim
Kelly, Steve Young. Who else did it?
Doug Flutie, right?
Flutie, yeah, he was in it. Yeah.
Someone said Bo Jackson. Yeah, if you could go play for the Royals and be awesome at baseball at the same time.
Yeah, do that.
But
maybe that's what Kyler Murray's gonna do. Like with all these contract, it's like let me go play. Play
but
baseball.
Wasn't he signed by the A's? And the A's have no money, so they can't pay him.
Oh, that's true.
They had 3,000 fans at their game last night. I saw.
Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not.
It's not good.
Yeah, it seems bad.
Good. Also not good. Just constantly trading away your players.
Yeah.
That ever get good.
And then not trading for the White Sox like Montas or Manea.
Yeah, that's true.
Oops.
All comes back to the White Sox. Are they still losing? Last I checked, it was 1-0.
Hey, while you guys are checking White Sox, we're on Facebook now.
CHGO that's
Sports.
A new development.
So yeah, if you go to facebook.com, it's CHGO Sports. So tell Grandma and Grandpa or whoever else that's on Facebook still, and we're there.
I will do that immediately. Jump on Facebook and get CHGO Sports.
Yeah,
all right.
Give us a follow.
Thank you, Lawrence. Appreciate it. Nice job producing the show today as well.
Thanks,
Nick,
man.
Nice show. It's good seeing Nick at Halas Hall. Get to get out in the field.
You gotta maybe tomorrow snap a pic of him, like that we could get like Nick in the wild. I think that'd be a good tweet
Nick
or Facebook post.
You gotta be careful there at Halas Hall. I've seen there actually is wild. There's two funky birds. I don't know what they are.
Those cranes. They're cranes.
But they're like red. Are those?
That's what everyone's called. Like I was on the highway and they were flying pretty low, and I'm like, if I had a bigger car, like one of these cranes is not making it back to Halas Hall. And I actually heard that one of them got eaten by a fox. There used to be 3. Now there's 2.
See, and I was going to bring that up about how I've literally one time we were interviewing Ryan Pace on the practice field. A coyote just walked out there.
Too bad it didn't take Ryan Pace away.
Wow. Nope.
Not sorry.
Instead, a falcon did.
Yes. I see what you did there.
Yeah. And then he took all those other players away that are now on the Falcons, which we showed you on the show a couple weeks ago with that amazing graphic.
I built that full screen.
That Lawrence did. He's the true star of the show here. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. A lot of fun discussion in the comments. One more day of this Bears mini camp. We'll be back to kind of wrap it all up tomorrow as well, again at 5:00. Friday, we'll be back in our normal time slot at 11 a.m. here on the CHGO Bears Podcast. Follow us on Twitter. Find us on Facebook now, CHGO Sports on Facebook. And please subscribe, be a member, allchgo.com. We appreciate those of you who are doing that. We will be back, Nick and I, tomorrow, 5 p.m. right here on the CHGO Bears Podcast.